Hello folks, welcome to your 2.4 drip marketing review. It's your boy Josh. Of course, we have to talk about the two Krampus characters that have finally come out, that being Dialyn and Banyue. Now first, let's talk about the first character that actually came out last night as of this recording. That is Dialyn, or Dialyn, however you want to call her. Her whole gimmick's that she uses a dial phone, which is kind of cute. And if I have to explain what those little turntable phones are to you, God forbid. Oh God, I feel way too old. Dialyn is coming to us as our first premiere / limited physical stun character, and I don't need to tell you guys that I am very excited about stunner coverage. Stunner coverage has been one of my most ideal archetypes when it came to the more recent releases, I would say, as of 2.3 to 2.5. I did want to see some premier stun options come out and unfold. You know, aside from the Zhao, who somewhat disappointed me as a fire stun character, I think Dialyn coming as a physical stunner character is going to be really cool. Now, to what effect that she actually stuns, whether she does it via aftershocks, whether she does it on field, or whether she does it in an entirely different way, is to be determined. But I think her being a physical stunner and allowing for a little bit more coverage that, you know, Pokra has been holding down the fort for this entire time, with her being the only physical stunner option, this is going to be great, because now we just have another stunner option. Potentially, you're more likely for the Rupture class, just because, again, Zhao has been the only one who's been holding down that fort as the premier option. We've had Zhao and we've had Pokra. So Dialyn coming into the mix to potentially allow us for another type of configuration, or just for more options in that slot, is going to be really good. Hey folks, it's Post out of Josh here to tell you about the sponsor of this video, LD Shop. Now, LD Shop has been gracious enough to provide us with some fun perks while we top up to 35% off of our favorite games. Almost any mobile game you play can be found here with bundles for bundles. Wait, that's kind of genius. And off of your first purchase, LD Shop wants to make you a customer for your gacha stay. So they're giving you a top up starting at 22%. All you need to do is take your ID, region, and enter your payment method, which they have it all, and boom. Yeah, you can't miss out on even more savings, because I have an additional 15% off code if you use the link below, with an extra 5% coupon for later. Take a look at the internet passes. They are $3.60 versus your regular $5. That money adds up, folks. Well, make sure to drop by LD Shop by clicking the link in the description for exclusive perks and discounts. And thank you to LD Shop for sponsoring this video. And of course, the previous minute of Yap is more just talking about the archetype of Dialyn. Of course, she, you know, if you guys really like her design, you know, she's, you know, Cruella de Vil looking, you know, she's wielding a chakram, I think. I do love my dancer chakram characters. So Dialyn is just kind of, you know, she fits like a hand in a glove, at least for me, and you know, checks a lot of archetypes. She's very cute. So Dialyn, a fan favorite of Krampus. And now onto something that I am unfortunately somewhat disappointed in. Yep, that's right. I'm talking about Banyue. Now, here's the thing. I didn't doubt that Banyue was going to be an offensive character. If you just look historically at a ton of the banners, we see a support type character, whether it be a stunner, whether it be a defense character, whether it be just support straight up, paired alongside a limited offensive character, whether that be anomaly, rupture, attack. So it came to no surprise to me when I saw Banyue as a rupture unit. I was very happy, in the sense that we would get another premium rupture option to round out the cast, and it was a different archetype or different element class than ether and ice. So I was like, oh great, yeah, Banyue rupture, and a different coverage of rupture. That's great. Fire, it's fire rupture, the exact archetype that Minato covers. He couldn't even get one patch, huh? He couldn't even get one patch. Couldn't even get one patch, huh? That is pretty ridiculous. For the folks at home who don't know, we are going into 2.3 with Lucia Idhari and Minato being the free A rank character, and unfortunately, he is of the same archetype, the Fire Rupture class. So this begs the question, Josh, what's the big deal if, we just don't want to use the budget option or the, F2P option in Minato? We can just pull for Banyue. But that just minimalizes the kind of effective range of Minato in a sense of this character being introduced basically pushes down the relevance of Minato. Now, for those of you on the other side or other fence of the argument that are saying that, oh, it's just another character, you can still use Minato. Yes, but the optics of this are terrible. To introduce a character that is the direct archetype and that is pretty much the direct power creep to what we are seeing in 2.3 is somewhat ridiculous. And there are arguments to be made that Dialyn is the physical stunner power creep to Pulchra, but it is to be determined whether or not they function the same. But again, as a physical stunner, you are going to be comparing those within the same archetypes of class and element. So it's not a stretch to say that Banyue is the power creep version of Minato. And if you guys were planning on pulling from Minato, just best to not pull from at all, and then just not pull on the Lucia banner if you were pulling for Minato alone. So, of course, if you're pulling for Lucia, pull for Lucia. But if you were pulling to get a couple copies of Minato, just save everything. Just save everything. But don't worry, folks. If you still love Minato, hey, you can still see him bouncing on it crazy style. Making noodles. I think. I don't know what that is. I'll be honest. I think it's noodles. Yeah. I mean, it's a cute animated short, I guess, but this won't cover up the fact that you made Banyue fire rupture. Please, please. At least make a physical rupture or something. Or does this mean that, yes, Shunguang is going to be physical rupture? And so thus the path is now illuminated forward. Before we go and look slightly backwards, I guess, in the position from 2.4 to look at 2.3 content with Lucia and Yihari, I do want to mention that now that we have Banyue and Dialyn established as our 2.4 characters, as our Christmas holiday characters, that most likely means that we are getting Shunguang and Zhao in 2.5 for the early Lantern Rite or Lunar New Year, or I say Lantern Rite for Genshiners, but Lunar New Year characters. And after 2.5, that means 2.6 and the end of 2.7 will be populated by the 2 or 3-ish Angels of Delusion characters. And this could mean the last S rank slot to this entire enterprise could be S rank Nicole or S rank Billy. Pause sham. I know that's a little crazy, but I would think that I would love to see a Starlight Knight Billy. I don't know, just me. But not to get too far ahead of the horse, Shunguang is more than likely going to fill the role as the story-based Void Hunter. Sorry, Yishen. This most likely means that we are going to see Shunguang in the more offensive role, aka we are going to see her as a rupture unit and potentially a physically enhanced rupture unit, just like how our special units are of Frost and Orc Ink. It puts the question what Zhao now actually is going to be now that we have a stunner, a part of Krampus, and we have a rupture, a part of Krampus. Does that mean that she is still orienting herself potentially for stun? A lot of people have been presuming that she'd be stun. In this case, I could even see her being pivoting to support, just because we would already technically have a Krampus stunner. It wouldn't be bad if she was also a secondary stunner, and then we could see a double stunner comp. We haven't really been introduced to double stunner comps outside of Hugo, and that's mainly because of how he functions, less so how the stunners interact with each other. So I would love to see how Zhao and a Dialyn can actually pair synergistically as a stun pair, or if it's more just conventional of Banyue leading the charge rupture, we have stun with Dialyn and we have support with Zhao. But let's bring it back to the present. We are about to head into 2.3 with Lucia and with Yihari. Where does it leave these two now that we already have the runway, the red carpet, let's say, for the 2.4, 2.5, and potential 2.6 and 7 characters? For me personally, this puts Lucia and Yihari in an amazing position. This means that for, going into the near future, we are headed into literally the rupture meta. However, Yihari's stocks fall slightly just because we are getting a rupture unit in Banyue and potentially, most likely, a rupture unit with Shunguang, if not attacker, most likely a rupture. But for Lucia, this actually raises her stonks out the wazoo, just because if you are planning on getting Lucia Yihari, good for you. You already have Yishen, good for you. You already have Banyue, good for you. You're gonna have a smorgasbord of amazing front runner DPS characters to utilize the best of Lucia's kit. And for those of you who are not necessarily in the know of why Lucia is such a great niche support, she is a niche support in that she is supporting sheer force and HP, sprinkled in with some other extra damage bonuses. If you guys would like more info on what Lucia and how she does her supporting capabilities, make sure you guys go watch my early access guide, which is already out right now. I'm still working on the Monato and Sambi guides, and actually even eventually Vivian guide. It's just that because again, we don't have access to both of my editors. Editing has been incredibly slow. I wanted to put out the Monato guide before I came out with the early access drip marking. But Lucia now actually turns into one of my favorite picks. Initially, for newer or returning players, I would have said to actually just pull for Yihari, just so you actually have a rupture frontrunner DPS character to help bridge the gap for you into rupture. But now that we have multiple rupture options, Lucia is probably just the pickup first, so that you can pick and choose whether or not you have enough polychromes for the Yidharis of the world, for the Banyes of the world. And if not, then just go for Shunguang. In any case, Lucia was already going to be the premier rupture support option. That was no question. But when it came to the optics and how I reframed how Lucia was valuable only with the context of the very small amount of rupture units, that it's not the case anymore, because we literally have 2/3 more ruptures coming along the way. This is very, very exciting news for those willing or wanting to invest into rupture. Those who've been asking me about divesting into the reruns of the Sambis and the Vivians of the world, this pushes their stonks even that much lower, just because we are headed into the quote-unquote rupture meta. This is really going to be a meta of rupture. Before, when we saw with Yishen, that was just one boss with the Miasma Priest that honestly a lot of characters could have completed if you had the proper stunner build or just, proper offensive build with your attackers. But here now, we are headed into a program that potentially has literally all 3 DA bosses with Miasma, and one of them is going to be super Miasma heavy, and that is slightly concerning. If you guys have seen the boss, and I'm not going to spoil the story at all with the particular boss, but if you guys have seen anything with the new boss, he actually is a lot nicer of a Miasma boss than a lot of other previous ones, especially the Miasmic, the Defiler. The Defiler was complete trash. This boss is actually a lot better, and he's so aggro, it invites you to defensive assist, evasive assist, and really interact with him in a more classical or conventional way, which does help out some other comps. In particular, a lot of stunner comps, a lot of double stunner comps. This is really, really good. But again, the more Miasma bosses we are introducing, the more this unfortunately pushes the narrative of wanting and pulling for rupture units. That means the anomaly units, that means the attacker units, God forbid attacker units, are unfortunately left in the dust. Yet, Josh, is it only ruptures that are benefiting from this new meta shift? Not necessarily. As I mentioned to a lot of people in my Twitch live streams, it's not just the rupture units, it's the meta of the stunner units. And that's why the characters like Jufufu and Dialyn are going to be so effective for your boxes, even if you can't pull all the premier rupture options. Just because if you have a premier stunner, this allows you for the breakages of those Miasma phases and faster turnarounds of your stun windows, such that you can work around said Miasma phase. But at the end of the day, we're going to have to see the actual dedicated kits of Dialyn and Banyue to actually really give you guys a much more tailored explanation and breakdown of their value. Right now, we are headed into Lucia and Yihari, and these two are looking to be really, really good already. So if you guys were considering picking up these units for whatever reason, hey, you want the ruptures, hey, you just want the freaking Vivian skin, honestly, pull now. 2.3 is looking to be a really, really good patch. 2.4, I'll say it right now, it's looking to be a skip patch. if you can afford it. If you want to pull for these 2.4 characters, I think they're a lot more luxury than the Lucias of the world. And then whether you want Banyue and Yidhari, that's kind of up to your preference. But let me know down in the comments below what you guys are going to be picking up. And make sure to guys to go check out LD Shop, the sponsor of today's video, for more discounts and support on your guys' Zenless Zone Zero journeys. Thanks so much for watching. It's your boy Josh, and we'll see you in the next one.